Okay, I'm trying to pick up from where I abruptly left off last time, just because I was like, I can't do this. I suppose I should try to guess who did it. The problem is that there isn't really anybody who acts suspicious other than the victim. The gas man is kind of that one character, that odd character out. However, the gas man doesn't act very suspiciously. And usually, in Ace Attorney, the villain kind of looks and acts kind of like a villain. So, my best guess would be it's actually a character that's going to come out of left field that hasn't been introduced yet. As far as the logic we're going to go through, if I were to make a guess at something, I would think that, if we look and see this kind of brown ring. It looks like they have like a lip marks on here. It's not quite red. That might have something to do with the missing like red or brown insert from the soap. So the first question, a question would be, why is the soap's red part missing now? And it might be because it was stolen, or it might be because it somehow over time disintegrates, which might be important. The reds, but we have to kind of relate that red stuff in the middle of the soap to the case. So maybe that red stuff in the soap got into the tea. But only got into one set of tea, that's why there's only a stain on one side. Now, we once argued, or not really argued, there was a conversation between, when examining these, little examine conversation, which we don't know how it happens in the context of the trial, but whatever, where Susato explains that there's a stain because the tea was just kind of left there in that cup for a long time. However, Mr. Natsume claims that both of them drank the tea immediately. Mr. What's-His-Face, Shamspear, claims that he let the tea sit in his cup for a while. However, he's a fraud. He's a sham. So, he's lying. So, he didn't. So, how would you explain the state otherwise? Well, maybe somehow that stuff from in the soap got into his tea. How would a culprit perform a murder by that mechanism? Well, I have no idea. It's pretty wild. This envelope's gonna have something to do with it too. That's the only things we really have right now. So, just throwing stuff out there. Anyway, the immediate order of business is to take the wife of the person who owns the gas company's assertion that Shamspear is a gas thief and pit it onto the person who says that he's an honest man, the person who wants you to show that the victim is a liar, essentially. Here we go.
Objection!
Well, I don't like the vagueness of that. These two statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious. If those two statements do you refer to, whose statements do you refer, counsel? Juror number 1. What are you yelling about, lad? I presume you refer juror number 4's statement, made by the wife of the owner of Altamont Gas. Well, yes. The victim, who you claim to be a noble, straight-up man, in fact turns out to be a common thief. So the good lady says that there is no evidence, is there? You and I both heard them say as such. It's true, we don't have evidence as such, just yet. But the claims aren't baseless, you know. What? You heard me. Seeing as its operation has already been compromised. I would suggest that the court hears testimony from our East End branch office employee over there. I'll do whatever you say, my lady. Gasman's honor. Juror number 1, you say you're a man of your word. If I could show that Mr. Shakespeare was a liar, you assured me that you would rescind your decision about the defendant's guilt. But you showed he was a thief, not a liar. He never said that he did not steal gas. Oh, actually, he did say that. Never mind. He said he wasn't a thief. There you go. Yes, I did say that. As a man of my honor, I'll hold to it, as I'm sure the other gentlemen of the jury will. Me? Oh, well, yes. Now that we've found out the man's a liar, perhaps we ought to consider the matter further. Well, if I'm perfectly honest, I haven't heard half of what you've all been saying. So, if this means we'll recap a few points, that would suit me down to the ground. Oh no, I'm not having any part of this. I want this trial over and done with. In that case, I shall change my leaning. So, Mr. William Shakespeare, if that is your real name, we of the jury demand to know exactly what kind of man you really are. It just kind of comes to that hard stop right there. That's 4 jurors. 4 for not guilty. It shows that the fire things don't weigh anything. It's like a mechanism behind the scenes. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Victory. No. A verdict has not been pronounced yet. Order. Well, this is quite extraordinary, I must say. As a result of the defense's summation examination, the jury's leaning has changed. Now only 2 jurors say guilty, whilst 4 say not guilty. I therefore declare this court to be in a state of disaccord, and order the trial to continue. You knew it would happen. You have spoiled the bouquet, Mr. Shakespeare. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury now find they are unable to trust you, the victim. But the gods will give us some faults to make us men. So God mend me, I do swear. This gasman speaketh that which concerns him most. Naught but gas, naught but thin air. It burneth bright a while, but it hath no substance, and it doth reek foul. Oh, what did you say? So it's okay to steal it because it is in a gas state? So if we were to freeze it, then it would not be okay to steal it then. So I take it, Mr. Shakespeare, that you deny the allegations of gas thievery. Or like you compressed it into a solid or liquid. Most heartily, my lord, thou hast forgot, I am a seraph, an angel. Noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart. Ah, you flowery mouth, pompous beanpole, just 'cause I haven't got the evidence yet. Mr. Shakespeare, if in fact you are not noble of mind, sweet of nature, or honest of heart, if you are a liar, then your testimony should have no sway in this courtroom. It is my considered opinion that at the present time no other possible culprit of this crime has been identified. All testimony heard by the court thus far heavily implicates the defendant. In short, it would not be unreasonable at this stage for me to rule on the case. Oh no. However, in light of the fact that the jury has expressed concern about the fidelity of this witness, I believe it would be inappropriate for this court not to pursue the point further.
Objection.
I assure you, my lord, that would be a waste of the court's time. The gas in this case are unrelated. Juror number 4. Yes? Didn't you say before that although you had no hard evidence to prove this man has been stealing gas, you had strong grounds for suspecting him? That's right, we do. Don't we, worker? Absolutely, Lady Quinby. Gasman's honor. Very well, then. We will hear your testimony now. You will tell the court precisely why you believe the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare, has been stealing gas. Yes, my lord. It'll be my pleasure. At the Antidote gas name, I swear... If I may, my lord. Go ahead, madame. This worker's testimony may have a significant bearing on the good name of my husband's company. Therefore, I should like to take the stand alongside him in a supervisory role, if you wouldn't mind. Ooh, oh yeah, sweet as honey, yeah, you what? Oh. Very well, as an exception I shall honor your request. Thank you, my lord. What? You wait till the boss gives you an earful. Oh, it's gonna sting, you mark my words. So, you will both testify before the court on the subject of the illegal consumption of the Altamont Gas Company's fuel. Yes. Is that clear, my good man? Clear as Altamont gas, my lady. Which is the clearest in the world. Do you think the gas has gone to his head, Miss Susato? I think the man is just very dedicated, a very dedicated employee, Mr. Naruhodo. I am proud to be the company's East End branch investigator and meter money collection agent. Altamont gas meters accept through-penny bits. Each coin gives customers about 2 hours of gorgeous gas. And yet the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room didn't have a single coin in it. The meter doesn't appear to have been tampered with, though, and the collection agent has the only key. Somehow, he's using all the flaming gas he wants without paying a penny. If that's not thieving, what is? Well, you could say he's not using gas, but that's where we're gonna have to show that he was indeed using gas. Pray forgive the discourtesy. The irrelevance of this testimony causes me to turn to my hallowed chalice. What do you mean by that remark, Lord Van Zykes? Did the mustache nip... Japanese poison the gangling excuse for an actor, or didn't he? That is all that should concern this court, and yet now we must listen to this abhorrence. Clearly, what separates the vast British Empire and your Eastern Island nation is more than geographical distance. But this could turn out to be crucial testimony. The cross-examination must go ahead. Do what you will. Lord Van Zykes appears to be in a violent mood. Yes, he does. Attempted poisoning and an incident of gas theft with no supporting evidence. It's true that they would appear completely unrelated at first glance. But I wonder, the truth tends to be buried in the most unusual places. And the first step in uncovering it will be to establish just who and what this man really is. Let's...
Hold it!
press this irrelevant thing. So does that mean you enter people's houses in order to empty their gas meters? That I do. Have to try to catch people when they're in. Then I ask permission to come inside and do my business. Does that mean you've been into Mr. Natsume's room before as well as Mr. Shamspear? Well now, interesting you should bring that up. Because I couldn't believe how little money was in his meter. I mean, how the pair of them survived the winter is beyond me, it really is. Knowing Mr. Natsume, he probably spends all his gas money on books. And when he's finished reading them, he probably burns them for warmth. You will kindly reiterate your statement about the gas meter themselves, Mr. Meterman. Not much to say, really, but as you wish.
Hold it!
So all London houses that have a gas supply are fitted with these gas meters, are they? They are the latest model, the height of technology, developed by our company Altamont Gas. And anyone who uses our gas will have one of these meters in their property, yes. So if a 3 pence coin gives 2 hours of gas, most people would use about 3 coins in a night. A bit more than that usually, if they have both gas lights and a gas stove, that is. Thinking about it, Soseki-san doesn't have a fireplace in that room of his, does he? Some people will choose to use candles, of course, and only have gas for heating. Ah yes, I do remember seeing candles in Mr. Natsume's room, actually. And how does the money in the meter get back to you at the gas company? Every 3 days, gasmen like me visit properties on the gas supply and empty the meters of coins. I must say, the design and manufacture of the new meter cost the company an awful lot of money. But happily, it did put a stop to people not paying their dues, for the most part. Because they have to pay in advance, you mean? Yes, exactly right.
Hold it!
Out of interest, how long has this been going on? Weeks and weeks. He's been pinching gas off us for ages. And you've examined the meter in Mr. Shamspear's room, I take it? Naturally, we took it off the wall and went over it with a fine-tooth comb. And found nothing suspicious at all, I presume? No, I'm afraid we didn't. Which is exactly why I demanded a new type of meter to be produced. One with an indestructible lock. The Shamspear Special. That sounds like it would have cost an awful lot of 3-penny pieces. But even after all that, the rascal's meter was still empty. I'll never forget the humiliation. When I opened up the money box, I found it bare. You what? I said. You what? And the look on his face, that smarmy smile of his. Ah. I pulled the meter straight off the wall and took it back to the office. But you know what? Nothing. Not a trace of it being jimmied open anywhere. Not a single sign. Well, you just bypassed it, you people. And what's happening to my salary? As a result, down to 3 shillings a day, that's what? A life-threatening situation in a number of ways. Incidentally, what became of that meter? Nothing became of it. I've still got it. Oh. Right here. No wonder they call you Meterman. I think it would be prudent for the court to sequester this item while the trial is ongoing. Definitely. Although at first glance, there doesn't appear to be anything unusual about it. Excuse me, I have to cough. That's a very sturdy looking padlock, isn't it? And the money box is sealed with beeswax, too. So if Mr. Sholmes were to get up to any mischief, he'd be found out immediately. Mr. Naruhodo, mischief of that kind is not the sort of thing that Mr. Sholmes would... You know, you didn't finish that sentence, don't you? Well, anyway, it's understandable that the gas company would want to safeguard the money that's rightfully theirs. But does it feel a little over the top, perhaps, doesn't it? That's... Have you spotted something, Mr. Naruhodo? Man, I'm really coffee. Really tickling. Okay. Just that here, there's a little hole, don't you see? Excuse me, I gotta stop recording for a bit here. Tickled. And, yeah. I had to go crazy. Okay. Goodness, you're right, I wouldn't have noticed. It's not a very neat hole, is it? Not professionally made, I'd say. So you think it might have been opened up by Mr. Shamspear? Possibly. It seems the people at Altamont Gas must have missed it. Well, it certainly seems to go all the way through to the inside. Yes, but there's no way a coin could fit through there. That's true, but even so, it seems more than a little suspicious. Right, he makes it do what happens when you put a coin into it. Using that hole. Let's move this along, shall we? Continue with your testimony. Although I would say it has as much value to the contents of that much value as the contents of that meter. Oof. I'll press before I present. I gotta present on that, of course. There's only one key for all of your meters. Well, in truth, there's another key in the company vault at our main office. But even if someone had somehow managed to get hold of a key, we know if the coin box had been opened. Oh, how? I came up with a rather clever way to expose any little shenanigans as it happens. Would you care to explain? Well now, in order to empty a meter, you have to unlock the padlock and remove the cover. But when I close the cover again, I stick a little beeswax seal on it, you see. A seal, like the sort of thing you'd put on an envelope, you mean. Something like that, yes. Basically, you can't remove the cover again without breaking the seal. Now, in the case of Mr. Shamspear's meter, there were no coins inside at all, as I said. But the seal hadn't been broken either. Well, if someone get a hold of a key, you might be able to get a hold of the stamp to put the seal on. So that would mean Mr. Shamspear somehow managed to steal coins from inside the meter without opening it? It would seem so, but that would be impossible.
Hold it!
How do you know that he's been using gas, though? Well now, since I started investigating this bloke, I've been to his room more than a few times. And on every single occasion, his lamps have been blazing and his stove pounding. It's the middle of winter and he still turns to me, sweat dripping down his cheeks, and says, Cut the nunnery. Hamlet indeed. Ah, I could wring the bloke's neck. I get all hot under the collar, but still, every time I open that flamin' meter, it's empty. He's robbing me of my salary, too. What's wrong with the world? Where is the justice? But how can Mr. Shakespeare possibly be stealing the money? I don't understand. The simple explanation is right before your eyes. What? A toast to the eventual realization that the gas man could be an accomplice. Oh, I thought that Van Zykes was going to give a hint, and instead he just gave a red herring. Good lord, eminently plausible indeed. What do you have to say for yourself? Oh please, Lady Quinby, I'm a faithful worker. And besides, if the money us gasmen collect wasn't tally with how much gas has been used, you dock our pay by the same amount. So you'd be stealing money only to have the same amount taken from your wages. Clearly that makes no sense. Perhaps it's a case of losing the battle to win the war. No, I'm not gonna stir up that hornet's nest. If I went stealing for the company, I'd be finished. It would seem there is no evidence to support the claims of thievery made against the victim, because Mr. William Shakespeare is innocent. Pray forgive me if that shatters some illusion my learned friend was clearly under. I certainly didn't expect to uncover another crime that looked like it's been taking place in the very same room. According to the testimony, it's only the meter in Mr. Shakespeare's room that's under suspicion. It does seem as though perhaps it has nothing to do with the incident involving Mr. Natsume. I know, it does seem that way, but the fact is, since I've been practicing law in England, I feel like I've encountered this at least once already. Cases that are interlinked. Oh. It might seem that two cases have nothing to do with one another at first, but in fact, they're intimately related. Yes, we have experienced that before, haven't we? I wonder if this is another instance. Sometimes many years apart. Perhaps, but we can't be sure of that yet. If the Altamont Gas Company has been investigating Mr. Shakespeare so earnestly, there must be something to do. There must be something to it. But then how has he managed to steal their gas? Okay. Okay.
Objection!
Lady Altamont, I'm afraid to say that this meter clearly does show signs of having been tampered with. What? Get away! I've been over and over that thing. I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with it. In that case, what do you have to say about the small hole that's been made in the base of the coin box? Oh, what? You're right, you're quite right. There's a little hole there. The meters aren't supposed to have that. None of the others do. In other words, we could assume that Mr. Shakespeare secretly opened up this hole himself. Yes, I wouldn't be all that at all surprised, but why? Yeah, why? I mean, it's tiny. You couldn't get a fartin' thing through that. You could get a coat hanger through. Lady Altamont. I wonder if you could give the court some more details about your meter designs so other people could use them to help them steal gas. What sort of details? Well, what I'd specifically like to know is how it differentiates coins. There wasn't any, like, health in jeopardy there. How does the meter tell the difference between different coins? What do you mean? Well, for example, if someone were to put in a 1 penny coin, that wouldn't work presumably, would it? No, of course not. So, well, how does the meter know that the coin has been fed as a 3 penny bit? Ah, I see what you're getting at now. The meter tells coins apart by their shape and size, which includes their thickness. A 3 penny bit is about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. You see, other coins just won't fit. Ah, I see. That's clearly been very well thought out. The witness will amend her formal testimony with that information in case it is pertinent. As you wish, my lord. Does something else fit?
Hold it!
Well, conversely then, it would seem that anything matching a 3 pence coin, exactly in terms of diameter and thickness, could equally well be used. Would that be true? Well, yes, in a way. The weight comes into it to a certain extent as well. We've thought that through anyway. If you find any fake coins inside the coin box when I empty the meter, if I find, the contract says the customer has to pay 100 times the amount they diddled as a fine. We live for moments like that, us gasmen do. Live for them. It would seem the gas company has thought of everything. Woohoo! Hurrah for gas! Hurrah for cash! Ultimate all the way. That's quite enough of that. Remind me how big are 3 penny bits? About 3/4 of an inch across. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Is this 2 centimeters measurement significant? Or perhaps there's some aspect of the meter's construction that we should be focusing on? Yes, you may be right. Perhaps I should try a different tack here. Like asking about whether the meter can be dismantled, for example. How could the meter be dismantled? Dismantled? Yes, given that there are no signs of having it been forced, I wonder if perhaps rather than being broken open, it might have been taken apart. Well, yes, that does make some sense. The padlocks are made by a first-class locksmith for the finest quality steel, and the meter box itself is made from plate steel as well, welded shut to ensure it can't be opened again. I can assure you it's quite impossible to dismantle it. Okay. I see. The witness will amend her formal testimony with that information in case it's pertinent. As you wish, my lord. Why is the health thing not flashing?
Hold it!
Has anyone ever tried? Oh yeah, they've tried, but they've all given up before long. After all, if they actually broke the meter, the company would be able to take legal action. Yes, that makes sense. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Is it welded steel construction significant? Or perhaps there's some other aspect of Excuse me. Yes, you may be right. Perhaps I should try a different tack. Switch it. Yeah, it's the soap. You have to do the soap somehow. Okay. Soap. Now I can examine it again. Huh. Oh, look at this bar of soap. There's a circular depression on its side at about 2 centimeters across, or 3/4 of an inch. Ah, do you think? We didn't find this soap at the scene, did we? Yes, yes, there were 2 bars on that little ledge out just outside the window, so we took this one. But I'm sure that when we first found it, there was some sort of reddish medallion in the middle there. I remember it clearly. Yes, but there's no sign of it now. Where could it have gone? Yes, they didn't let you go, they let you examine it earlier in the trial, but didn't do that specifically until you examined that depression at this stage in the trial. That's kind of... That could really trip you up if you just presented it before examining it.
Objection!
It didn't update its details. Let me just confirm something here. If the diameter and thickness were to be correct, the meter would accept any object as if it were a through-penny bit. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Well, by something of a coincidence, while we were investigating in Mr. Shamspeare's room, we found a particular item that matches the dimensions perfectly. Something the same size as a through-penny bit? What was it? The item in question is this. What? Have you been inhaling gas? That's a bar of soap. It certainly looks nothing like a through-penny bit, I must say. It looks like I'm gonna have to point out exactly what I mean here. Okay. Oops. Oh, it just gives you the answer? Okay. You have to turn over the soap to see what I mean. Ah. Are you referring to that round depression in the middle of the soap there? That's right, a depression that's approximately 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Or, in other words, almost exactly the same size as a through-penny bit. Get away! Does anyone here present have in their possession a through-penny bit? Quickly now, hand over your coins, ladies and gentlemen. It sounds rather like a highway robbery, doesn't it? Did you have one, Judge? Thanks to a kind member of the public in the gallery, I have here a through-penny bit. Now, to see if it fits. My word, it couldn't be more snug. What makes this make no sense is as if that soap costs less like, I'm trying to get this out correctly. The soap costs more than 3 pennies. That would make this pointless. At least for the perpetrator to do. If the soap was cheaper than 3 pennies, it was only 1 penny, then this would make sense. Yes, as I suspected. This, without a doubt, is a vital clue to explain how the Altamont Gas Company is being defrauded. Well, I don't believe it. So your assertion amounts to what? So, that some inferior bar of soap has a tentative connection with the theft of gas? Yes. The depression in the soap was clearly made by a 3-penny bit. I must concur at least. That pushes... Excuse me. I must concur, at least. That pushing a coin with some force into a poor quality bar of soap such as this is a remarkably simple way of replicating the coin's shape. And then you could use, well, some melted wax or something to pour into the mold. You can make fake coins in no time. This brings all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's the method Mr. Shamspear has been using to steal the gas. That's the missing link. And now if I follow the chain of thought, it's going to bring me to a new explanation for what happened that nobody's considered yet. But this is all nonsense. If the man has been making fake coins, my worker here would have found them when he emptied the meter. Yeah, but they flow out the hole in the bottom. Quite true, Lady Altamont. In the absence of some black magic that could make them disappear. I see. That's what we're dealing with, is it? There is one form of black magic that could cause the fake coins to disappear into thin air, yes? Exactly. And the meter here gives it away. What on earth? There are remnants of the magical method used visible on the gas meter taken from the victim's room. If that is your assertion, counsel, the defense will identify these remnants for the court at once. Here on the meter can the remnants of the method used to make the fake coins disappear be seen. So I presume this is like Scorch. I don't see any obvious like burn marks though. The reason why I say that is because if you wanted to melt the wax so it flowed out, you would use some sort of heat, right? So it burned like the paint. But the whole thing is all scuffed up, but like none of it's like black like it's been scorched. In that case, I guess I'll just point out the hole again, because I don't know what else to do. There's this little hole at the bottom of the meter here, isn't there? It looks as though it was made by somebody who didn't really have the right tools. It does actually go all the way through to the inside, though it's hard to see that unless you look closely. In fact, it goes right into the part of the meter where the money ends up. I suppose it's nothing then. Oh, well, you could possibly extract a coin through such a small hole, could you? No, I suppose not. But then the question remains, why would somebody go to the effort of making a hole here? Okay. Can I examine on like a scorched part? Or at least as close as possible? This is quite a tough padlock. What are you doing, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I was just seeing if it was possible to force it open. If you break it, I'm afraid you'll be forced to pay a fine. Oh no, whoa, that was close then. Perhaps tell me a little sooner next time. Well, he wasn't gonna break it, so. That's where the gas plug's in. Sounds like a gas man didn't find a single coin inside this meter. No one could survive in a London winter without gas lamps, and certainly not without a gas stove. How does it go? Out, ouch, brief candle, or something like that. Perhaps it's the same kind of spell that Mr. Shamspear has been using to make the coin come out. Magic or not, there must be some trace of the method he used on the meter somewhere. To look it over very carefully. As if examine the back. Nope. Okay. Nope. Okay. Well, the only thing left, I guess, is do the hole again. That's kind of lame, though. You wouldn't expect them to just have do a repeat of the same. We found this bar of soap at the scene of the crime just outside the victim's window. Outside? Okay, so I guess that was right. Okay, I overthought that. Yes, outside where you yourself, Mr. Meterman, were loitering in the freezing winter air. That's where we found this soap. Oh, I get it. That's right. The answer, of course, is ice. Did you say ice? Mr. Shamspear has been leaving soaps like this outside his window each evening filled with water. After a night outside in the bitter cold, the water is completely frozen solid the next morning. Then he takes his fake coins of ice and feeds them into the gas meter, giving him light and warmth in spades. As his room becomes very comfortably warm, the ice now inside the meter's coin box melts, turning back into water, and draining harmlessly away through the small hole made in the other side of the meter. That is how, without leaving any evidence of his wrongdoing, this man has been stealing Altamont gas. But why was it red, though? Well, that's gonna tie it into the tea. Excuse me. Just like that. So simply. Has he tried to make us look like idiots? He's been fooling us all with some bars of soap and some water? That's right, madame. I don't believe it. It can't be true. Do you have any idea how much money we spent to develop that new meter? And now you have the audacity to suggest that a bit of soap and some water can render it totally useless. I'm fairly sure I didn't design it. Evidence. Sorry? I want evidence. If you're going to stand there and tell me our meters are rubbish, I want to see proof. She's very good at enforcing accountability, isn't she? Very well, Lady Altamont. If you'd like evidence, I'll provide it. What? There is evidence? Mr. Naruhodo, are you saying you do actually have evidence to support this theory? I did notice a trace of something that bothered me a little at the time. And I have a feeling that this theory we've come up with now could explain it. The piece of evidence that substantiates the theory about how Mr. Shamspear has been stealing gas is the armband. No. The books. No. In fact, we haven't used this even though this would be something to show that Mr. Natsume was there. The street map. No. What does this have to do with anything? This is gonna be like the nail in the coffin on something. Ah, okay, I got it.
Take that!
This photograph of the scene at the point when the victim was discovered, taken by Inspector Gregson, and it clearly shows the remnants of the crime carried out by Mr. Shamspeare. What remnants? Here you can see the gas meter on the wall in Mr. Shamspeare's room. Now look closely at the floorboards directly underneath the meter. Whoa, what's that? Some kind of grubby stain? Almost certainly, it's the water stain resulting from the liquid that drained out the hole made in the meter. Ah. If one coin gives around 2 hours of gas usage, and the occupant was heating his room in all his waking hours, we can imagine he would have used around 10 of his fake coins each day. The melting ice inside the meter's coin box would have been dripping out almost constantly, leaving a stain on the floor. This is awful. And there's further evidence too. Mr. Shamspeare is slumped over the table, apparently having consumed strike 9. And right there next to him is a bar of soap broken in half. You're right. It would appear to me then, counsel, that the man was eating the soap, was he? Pardon me for disagreeing with your lordship, but certainly not. He did not beat about the bush there, did he? In truth, Mr. Shamspeare is found with a fork in his hand. A meal of soap is sounding increasingly likely. A meal of soap is sounding increasingly likely, Lord Van Zykes. Okay. Do you mean to say he used the fork to... Yes. To extract a frozen coin from the bar of soap. Ah. But the bar broke in half. So perhaps it didn't go very well. Good gracious. Lord Van Zykes. This is really, I just realized now how sucky the situation is. It's like, if you have to put another coin in the gas meter every 2 hours, you have to wake up every 2 hours to put another coin in the gas meter. How do you sleep? Your sleep is 2-hour bursts. Yeah, but that's terrible sleep. Sleep should be continuous. Everyone knows that in the 21st century. Oh, anyway. I was throwing my hand up in despair. I've happened to catch my hallowed bottle on the way. Pray forgive my maladroit mistake. What is the meaning of this, counsel? Allow me to pose my learned friend a question. What exactly did you establish was your most recent cross-examination? Well, that Mr. William Shamspeare is a liar and a thief. In other words, that his testimony is unreliable. That's it, that's exactly it. Very well, let us assume the man is a liar. Now allow me to pose another question. A possible difference does that make? Well, we know that suicide can be discounted. Scotland Yard's investigation revealed no sign of another vessel that contained poison. And on the night in question, there were no visitors to the room except the accused. The young gas man's testimony, which we have no reason to doubt, has confirmed that. Furthermore, the only possible way the poison could have entered the victim's body is via the tea. The court has seen no evidence whatsoever that suggests otherwise. Even if Mr. William Shakespeare is the liar you claim him to be, these facts have been objectively established. There's no escaping it. Well, just like a little thought here. What if he was using the box as kind of like a water dispenser? So he would actually like... Because you see, the tap... So... We know that the public tap was broken, right? That's why Natsume says he used bottled water. If the public tap was so... But Mr. Shakespeare maybe wouldn't not even been able to afford that. So he would get his water from melting coins in the metal thermally conductive meter case and like drink what proceeded from the like coin safe. So if we could say, okay, what was in the soap, the discs that were in the soap were red, and there was a stain on his cup that was red, we can induce that he somehow froze red stuff in his soap for some reason, put that red stuff in his coin thing because he needed it for the gas, then put his cup underneath there, had that red stuff drain into his cup, and then drank it. And that's what had the poison in it. I don't know. That's just my thought. Now you go, okay, how did the red stuff get into the soap molds in the first place? The gas man did it? As a way to try to trace, like, what the soap was for? But then, he claims to not know how this was done. Huh. Maybe he was lying. Maybe he did know how this was done. He's pretending to not know. Somebody would have to know about the whole soap thing, such they would know to put poison in the soap molds, and do that would poison him poison his water. Therefore, in light of these facts, the prosecution calls for immediate adjudication. You... What? Order! Will counsel, how does the defense respond? Wonder how I respond? Naruhodo responds by shoving his face into the desk. Mr. Naruhodo. What's the point of that last cross-examination? Did it actually get us anywhere? Or did it make no difference at all, like Mort Van Sykes is saying? Raise an objection. No, this isn't over. The defense will not rest. What? But counsel, you successfully explained everything. You've identified the substantiated the scrupulous method employed by Mr. Shakespeare to consume gas. What more is there to discuss? Lord Van Sykes just highlighted 3 facts in order to make his point. Contrary to what he would have the court believe, not all of them have been objectively established at all. What are you trying to say, Mr. Japanese friend? At least one of those so-called facts is an assumption made due to lack of evidence. But the situation has changed now, following the cross-examination of the latest witnesses to take the stand. Don't be absurd. What is this nonsense? Yes, when you bring everything you've learned so far together and consider it as a whole, it's clear. There's a question that now we need to reconsider, namely, was the poison in the tea? We've all been led to believe that the Strike 9 poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspear was in the tea brought to him by Mr. Natsume, but that's conjecture at best.
Objection!
The victim has testified that nothing else passed his lips that night. There's no other possibility. And since there was no trace of tea left at the scene, it couldn't be tested for traces of the poison. He lied. As I said, the situation changed. Because in fact, some of Mr. Natsume's tea was left at the scene. And a particular piece of evidence proves it. That's totally different than what I was suggesting. I mean, I didn't say suggesting right. That I was suggesting. Here's how. That suggests that he froze the tea. Which doesn't really help me, because I suggested that the thing that he drank, like, the thing that was in the soap had the poison, right? He would drink from the coin safe. Well, if he froze the tea, and then he put the frozen tea in the coin thing, and then that melted in there, and he drank from it, and he drank out of there, then he would have drunk poison in the tea anyway.
Objection!
A ludicrous claim. Scotland Yard detectives investigated the scene exhaustively. What evidence are you suggesting they missed? The defense has made a bold claim indeed. Very well, counsel. Present your proof. What evidence from the scene of the crime can tell us about the nature of the defendant's tea? I mean, if you stain something with water, it's gonna look darker anyway, right? So we can't just get this stain. We can't just say it's a tea stain. Straight up, can we? We've already used this print as evidence. This would be lame because we already established there's no tea in the teacups. Oh dear. Here's the thing, it says the nature of the defendant's tea. That means to suggest that it has to be about the defendant's tea, which means we need to show that it's red. Which means we have to use this even though we couldn't find tea in there.
Take that!
The music did not stop. Which means I got it wrong. Yes, it's related to the tea, it's literally the teacups. What are you talking about? The propulsive force of losing health. Okay, this is what I would choose from the idea that some was left at the scene of the crime, right? Because it shows where on the scene of the crime it would be. It would be on the floor, right?
Take that!
The music did not stop. Phooey. This is like the last thing left that makes the most sense, that makes any sense. So I have to present this now.
Take that!
Oh, the music didn't stop, but at least we got a reaction other than, I don't see why this has anything to do with anything. Good gracious. The soap again? The same bar the victim used to fashion his coin of ice? Coins of ice? Yes, that's right, my lord. It just came back to me. Something about when we first found this bar of soap at the scene yesterday. It's more bars of soap. Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window? I'm quite certain that when we originally stumbled upon the bars of soap, there was actually a frozen coin in each bar. So you discovered the gas thief's coin factory. Fascinating. In a way, yes, but there's more. The coins were found in the soap at the time. The coins found in the soap at the time weren't normal ice. There was something strange about them, you mean? Exactly, something very obviously strange. They were red. The ice was red? No. You mean, I don't know why you're afraid of this, Van Zykes. That's right, it's obvious to me now. The fake coins in the soap were made from frozen tea. What? I would remind the court of a statement made by Mr. Natsume earlier in this trial. That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shakespeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never. Ah yes, I believe there had been a snowfall that day. It was particularly cold. Sadly, in such occasions, the poorly constructed water mains on the east end were prone to freezing. So on the night in question, Mr. Shakespeare, having no running water to use, was forced to use the tea brought by Mr. Natsume in order to make his fake coins. My word. There were 2 bars of soap in the window ledge when my judicial assistant and I investigated the scene. That's right, and we only borrowed one of them. Which means that even if, as we speak, some of the defendant's tea is still present at the scene of the crime, frozen solid in a bar of soap outside Mr. Shakespeare's window. Extraordinary. Earlier today, Inspector Gregson informed the court that if even one drop of the tea remained, Scotland Yard would be able to analyze it for poison. As such, we are now in a position to prove or disprove what has until now been mere conjecture, by finding out for sure whether or not Mr. Natsume's tea actually contains strychnine at all. Ah, you smug Japanese. My lord, we cannot do the defendant the injustice of passing judgment now. The police should be dispatched to recover the remaining bar of soap from the scene at once. The defense requests a thorough analysis of the frozen tea embedded in it, to determine whether or not it contains any poison. Bailiff, instruct the police to attend the scene at once. Yes, my lord, understood. It would seem we have no choice but to suspend these proceedings for the time being. I trust you have no objection, Lord Van Zykes. None, my lord. Scotland Yard will recover the tea from the scene and carry out the requisite tests immediately. Trial will resume at the same hour tomorrow morning. The prosecution and defense may conduct further investigations as appropriate in the interim. Yes, my lord. Hell. We managed to scrape through there somehow. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned until tomorrow. Oh. They haven't done this in this series yet. This is what they do usually in Ace Attorney and Ace Attorney Mainline, is the trial lasts several days. Excuse me. There's like investigation, trial, investigation, trial, investigation, trial. It's finally happening. In The Great Ace Attorney. Pause recording briefly here. I'm back. Ooh, we made it back in one piece, just... To be perfectly honest, I thought we were finished there for a while. At what part, exactly? Oh, I know. That's a lot of close shaves. Oh, what a lot of close shaves. There are so many carriages in the streets of London. You were very nearly flattened several times. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. Yes, I know. It was a marvelous defense, Naruhodo-san, it really was. I was in awe of you. Oh, thank you. And now that your fervent exploits have won us some more precious investigation time, let's see if we can find some new clues for court tomorrow. Yes, let's do that. Is everything alright? I suppose. I still can't quite believe it, that's all. That I'm here in England working as a lawyer, I mean. In the Old Bailey, no less. Truth is, it shouldn't be me, should it? It should be him standing in my shoes. It should be Kazuma. It was Kazuma-sama's wish that you follow him to Great Britain and work alongside him. Yes, I mean, I never had the chance to ask him exactly why, but he clearly had a plan. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. And you're doing wonderfully, Naruhodo-san. I've no doubt that Kazuma-sama would say exactly the same if he were here with us. Thank you, Susato-san. Thank you. Perhaps we should put the spade away somewhere. That's not a spade, Naruhodo-san. It's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. No, spades are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a shovel. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? You're so right, Naruhodo-san. You mustn't quarrel. We mustn't quarrel over such trifles. On reflection, then, I think I'll leave the spade where it is. Yes, I think that's for the best. We may need a shovel when we're working in the garden. I heard that there's another room behind that door. Yes, it's my bedroom, Naruhodo-san, as you well know. Shall I help you unpack your things? That's very kind, but no thank you. Your luggage looks very heavy. Are you sure I can't help you move it? That's very kind, but really, no thank you. A young maiden's private chamber is a place of bittersweet secrets, you know. The only secret I have is this 5-yen banknote hidden on the backside of my Daruma doll. These tanks are for keeping sea creatures. They're called aquariums, and they were all the rage in London at one time apparently. Yes, the English are so clever, coming up with the idea of having ocean life on display in the home. And it means you always have an emergency midnight feast on hand, too. I'm not sure that's really the idea. That's the lobster tank. You don't get to step ladder here? Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess I have to present the bracelet every time, just because I have to. You've been wearing that ever since we arrived in Great Britain, haven't you? Well, it's what shows that I'm a lawyer, so it seems appropriate. I'm not sure that it really means much in this country, though, I'm afraid. I wouldn't say that. It might not be official, but it looks official. Often when the police stop me, I just throw them this and they leave me alone. You're stopped by the police? Often? Well, you know, I'm a suspicious foreigner dressed all in black with a sword at my side. I do think it's probably the sword that's the main reason. Still, it makes me happy to see you're wearing it. And the armband. Yes, I've made up my mind that I'll carry them always. The symbol of who I am and the sword of Karuma. The sword Karuma. Okay. It was quite a shock earlier today, wasn't it? When the victim himself turned up in court and took the stand. I know. Not only that, but then finding out that he is actually a bare-faced gas thief as well. Yes, that was certainly a surprise to us all. For a while, it seemed as though everyone had quite forgotten about Soseki-san's poisoning the tea. Careful with your phrasing, Sosatu-san. He didn't poison anything. And there's more to this, Mr. Shamspear, than we yet know, I'm sure of it. Mr. Shamspear certainly wasn't the noble, upstanding man everyone thought he was at first. What's become of him, actually? I was told that he'd be returning to the hospital ward where he was receiving treatment. Oh, which one is that? Let me see. Ah yes, he's at St. Bartholomew's, or Bart's, as Londoners call it. We know that place, don't we? Yes, we visited Miss Green there yesterday. It's the same hospital to which she was taken. Ah yes, after Soseki-san stabbed her in the back. Do be careful with your phrasing, Naruhodo-san. He didn't stab anyone. Perhaps we both owe Soseki-san an apology. St. Bartholomew's. Yes, we should probably visit the hospital later. So, I know that Soseki-san took tea to the victim on the night in question. But as he isn't the culprit, then obviously... Yes, the poison surely wasn't in the tea. But if that's the case, how on earth did the poison get into Mr. Shamspeare's body? I'm sure we'll find a clue at the scene. There must be something in Mr. Shamspeare's room that will help solve the mystery. Well, naturally, Scotland Yard detectives have been over the place already. But it couldn't hurt for us to have another look around, I think. Definitely. And I'm desperate to know the outcome of the investigation into the tea left in the bar of soap. Well, if we run into Inspector Gregson, we can ask him about that. I think that they're going to find poison in there. And you're going to have to work around that. Because if the poison... But the poison would have been added, like, from the outside into the soap mold, not by Soseki-san into the kettle. And Mr. Shamspeare, or Shamespeare, was drinking it out the other end of his, like, gas-stealing stuff. Zuma Sogi, the best friend I ever had, a lawyer with such promise. And also dead! And also very little screen time for how much he's been talked about. He's been talked about more than he's talked. He really saved my bacon in that horrible incident just before he left Japan. I can still picture him now, looking so fierce and determined in court, with his finger pointing. Then after the trial, that crazy idea he came up with. There's a stowaway, yes. You can fit inside my trunk if you curl up small enough, I'm sure. No one will know. Zuma, won't you tell me why? Why go to these links so that I can accompany you to Great Britain? Well, it's been on my mind ever since we got through that trial. That you really ought to go into law, be a defense lawyer. You've got a natural talent for it. Believe me, I guarantee it. But I never even thought about becoming a lawyer. Well, I can't force you, obviously. You'll have to decide for yourself. But anyway, London is the cultural capital of the world, the city at the forefront of everything. It can't hurt you to see it with your own eyes. No, that's true. I suppose, though, if you were to become a lawyer, then one day... One day what? Oh no. Never mind. Naruhodo-san. Oh, sorry, I was just thinking about Kazuma. Yes, he's forever in my thoughts, too. To change the Japanese judicial system for the better, that was his dream. That's why he so desperately wanted to come to Great Britain to study, of course. Yes, that's right, but... Yes? I do wonder if his true intentions lay elsewhere sometimes. I don't know. The thought just takes hold of me every now and then, that's all. Hodo-san, what do you mean by Kazuma-sama's true intentions? I mean this. His katana? I never expected to inherit this sword after Kazuma passed away, of course. No, know, I don't know, I know. It was because I asked you to take it. When I have it at my side in court, I feel as though it gives me courage. Yes? Actually, the night before he died, he told me a little about the sword. Takuma. That's right. It's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryanosuke. It can't be parted. I can't be parted from my katana. Karuma guides me. I truly believe that. Its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two. Not that you would need much compelling. On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain. That involves slicing things in two. Somebody very important I must slice in two. Something you have to do? Yes. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. What do you mean by something very important that I have to do? I had hoped that the answer to that question would become apparent when we arrived here, but as yet I've not found a single clue. I see. Oh, Runo and Susie, hooray, you're back. Hello, Iris. You're in fine spirits as always, I see. I am, and you look as immaculately presented as ever, Susie. Oh, you flatter me. Well, you couldn't have come at a better time. I've just made a pot of tea. I'll set some cups. Really? Thanks, Iris. But actually, what is that foul smell? Aha, the Wanderer returns at last. Where on earth have the pair of you been? We've been in court. Oh, for my Mr. Mustache's case. That was today, was it? I'm sure I mentioned it only yesterday, Mr. Sholmes. I'm sure you think you did. Well, we can laugh about it now. So tell me, how did the trial go? Reasonably well so far. We've managed to escape without a guilty verdict at least. Really? I would have liked to see it. And I must pass the time of day with Mr. Reaper again. It's been too long. Is Lord Van Zykes an acquaintance, Mr. Sholmes? Naturally. There's not a person in the world who doesn't know my name, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, he acted like he didn't know who you were in the last game. Or he did, but he's like, there's this, like, hero of, like, the common, of the plebs. Hero of the plebeians called, some so-called great detective named Hairlock Sholmes. That's how Van Zykes referred to him. Not quite what I asked, but still. Mr. Sholmes, whatever is that odor? Yes, what is it? It's faint, but absolutely awful. Ah, indeed, that's the scent of victory, my dear fellows. Victory in science. Oh dear. Alright, I'll bite. What is he up to now? She doesn't have any new ideas. Oh yes, this is where you note down ideas, isn't it, Iris? So what's on the blackboard today? Buck up, Bruno. What is this? Oh, I'm just playing around with ideas for the title of my next month's installment. Oh, it's the same. Okay. Bartok, or it's not, I keep saying Bartok, but it's actually Barok. Lord Barok von Zykes. Yes, it's an interesting sobriquet. Sobriquet, whatever that word is he has, isn't it? The Reaper of the Bailey. Once the legendary prosecutor has fought for someone's conviction, that person is doomed. Even if he or she is found not guilty by the courts, sooner or later the hapless soul will vanish from the capital. But vanish how exactly? Well, everyone has to die eventually somehow. By falling under a passing carriage, or drowning in the Thames, or succumbing to a sudden fever, or quite out of the blue being set upon by a highwayman. There are numerous routes to one's final terminus, my dear fellow. It all seems a little far-fetched, really. Well, on the bright side, Mr. Mustache is fighting fit. For the time being, at least. That's not overly reassuring. If the rumors are true, though, the obvious conclusion would surely be that those acquitted are, well, by Lord Van Zyk's own hand. As it happens, Miss Susato, that is quite impossible. Oh, why? Naturally, the man very quickly came under such suspicion. However, whenever these incidents occurred, the Reaper always had a cast iron alibi. Really? So his reign continued, but 5 years ago, he vanished from the courts, never to appear as a prosecutor again. That is until you arrived in the country, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, so I've heard. In fact, it was the very day I arrived when I was thrust into that trial at the Old Bailey. That bitter fight to the death coincided with the Reaper's resurrection. And really did end bitterly indeed. And here you are facing Mr. Reaper again. Poor Runo, I don't know if you're just incredibly unlucky or incredibly unlikable. I think it goes deeper than just me. I sense a general loathing of all Japanese people. With Mr. Natsume, who is currently defending being Japanese, as well as Ms. Susato and myself, I felt it even more keenly in court today. For some reason, Lord Van Zyke seems to have an inherent disdain of the Japanese. Indeed. It is an interesting observation. Do you know something about it? Do you, Mr. Sholmes? It was about 10 years ago that Barok Van Zyke chose to enter the legal profession. However, before that time, the young man's closest companion hailed from the Empire of Japan. No. What? Tell us more, Mr. Sholmes. Wait, so now Mr. Naruhodo knew this story going into the last trial of the first game. That makes that make a little less sense in retrospect. Because Van Zyke was like teasing. It was like, oh, maybe I'll say later why I don't like the Japanese. But then That would lose a lot of its, I don't know, suspensefulness for Naruhodo if Herlock Sholmes already told him what happened. I believe I've made it clear before. I'm unable to tell you anything about the affair. Oh, but... the veil will be lifted on the events of the past in due course, I have no doubt. For now, however, it is Mr. Mustache who is most deserving of your attention, I believe. So he doesn't tell him. So what is that incredibly foul smell? Oh, well, most probably this, I would say. What is that? My dear fellow, it is of course my latest invention. A chemical test that I can identify whether or not a tea is genuine at the drop of some tea. Oh my. There are some unscrupulous sorts manning the stalls along some of London's less frequented streets. They regularly sell what purports to be high-quality tea, but in fact merely dyed leaves of drab flavor. Well, that's certainly unsavory behavior. So, when one is presented with what appears to be black tea, one must be careful. Iris? At the ready, Hurley. Let us add a drop of my chemical to this cup of tea here. Do you see what happens? It turned completely black. And what a foul odor it is giving off. Indeed, the blacker the tea becomes, the more foul the odor, the better the tea is. It would appear that this cup has a particularly fine Darjeeling. That's very ingenious, but what do you do with the black liquid now? Why, dispose of it, naturally. Surely you wouldn't like to drink it, would you? There does seem to be a rather obvious problem with your new invention, Mr. Sholmes. Hence why this chemical test is merely a test, my dear madame. Right. The point is, we are entering a new era of science. In the world of criminal investigation, also. Yes, for forensic science. Oh, these are such exciting times. I regularly engage in the scientific experimentation alongside my unofficial consulting detective work. The Herlock Sholmes method will be the foundation upon which modern investigative techniques are based. This little tea incident was a happy byproduct of my ongoing forensic science research. Forensic science. I suppose I should find out more about that. So your tea test, is that an example of forensic science? Indeed it is. An essential tool in cases that hinge on the knowledge of whether some tea is higher or inferior quality. Not a huge number of cases, then. Perhaps a more practical example is required. Fingerprints? Not yet and accepted in our courts as evidence, I might add. Really, we are dragging our heels there. I hadn't even heard of them until recently. Which is partly why I undertake research in this field myself, of course. Does that mean you're studying fingerprints, Mr. Sholmes? Well, that would be boring, though. There are others in that field already, and I abhor the company of inferior minds. Now, what I am researching is skin prints. Skin prints, a nomenclature of my own design, as is this chemical agent that makes it possible. It instantly reveals objects touched by whichever person is under investigation. Brilliant, Mr. Sholmes. As long as it doesn't turn everything completely odorous and black. I assure you, my dear fellows, you will witness my forensic talents in action. Very soon indeed. Well, I think we should go back to the scene and see if we can uncover any new clues. That's the spirit, Bruno. See you later. Yes, until later. No, Mr. Sholmes. We were thinking you'd come with us. You were? Yes, of course. You said so just a moment ago. You said we'd witness your forensic talents in action. Ah, yes, I do recall saying something along those lines. But you go on ahead. I shall be sure to follow you later. In all likelihood, probably, maybe, well, I might. Your commitment astounds me. Oh, thank you, Mr. Shaws. We'll eagerly await your arrival. Bye-bye, Rudo. Bye, Susie. What do you suppose is happening? It sounds like some sort of disturbance. Yes, I hear angry voices. Be not angry, O ample lady. Verily thou art mistaken. Mistaken my foot. You are looking. You are looking at my painting. The eye of the man hath not heard, the ear of a man hath not seen. 'Twas foul indeed, the poison that mustache villain gaveth me. Forgive me, lady. I wish that you died from that poison. God have mercy, ample lady, but thou seest, I have vigor still. Behold my shem spear dents. That looks rather ominous, doesn't it? Yeah, that looks like the, sacrificial dance from The Rite of Spring. Although, 'tis the lawyer from the land whence riseth the sun. How now? What are you doing here, Mr. Shamspear? Mary, I do believe I am returned unto another ward. He was looking. That's what he was doing. Looking at my terrible work. Eastern fellow, so darky clad. Faith, thy work in court this morning was wonderful. I do applaud thee. Oh well, thank you. But that doesn't mean things will go so wonderfully for you tomorrow, does it? Anon, exuent. Mr. Shamspear might technically be the victim in this case, but there's definitely a lot more to it than that. It's very hard to pin the man down. I'm so sorry. I'm such an awful person. Miss Green, is everything alright? Oh, yes, I mean, don't worry about me. They're about to discharge me, so I must get ready to leave now. Oh, I see. We're delighted that you'll soon be well enough to go home, Miss Green. Oh dear, you're too kind. I don't deserve it. So, are you feeling more like yourself today, Miss Green? I am, thank you. I mean, people do recover from ordeals like this, don't they? Even people like me? Well, yes, it really was an ordeal, wasn't it? As far as I was concerned, I was just walking along the snow one evening, minding my own business. And then, completely out of the blue, I was struck in the back by a knife and collapsed unconscious for days. Of course, when I finally woke up, again yesterday, the whole business had been cleared up already. Now, what a terrible week it's been for you. Oh no, I'm sure I'm very lucky, really. I'll look back on this fondly. Really? Anyway, I must be getting my things together soon now, so I'm ready to be discharged. Oh yes, of course. Sorry to take up your time when you're obviously busy. Oh, hello again, Inspector Gregson. What are you doing here? Oh, well, we were hoping to have a look around, actually. The lawyer representing the defendant has a right to examine the scene, as I'm sure you're aware. Yeah, I know the score. Yes, one other thing. The soap on the ledge outside the window, did you find it, with the tea in it? Yeah, we found it all right. And there was a small amount of tea in it, as you said. I knew it. It's with the identification section at the yard now. They're looking into it. The results should be available later today. That's wonderful news. Thank you. Pretty impressive performance in court this morning. Sorry? Nothing. Forget it. Just make sure you don't disturb anything in here. Examine everything but Inspector Gregson or Hairlock Sholmes. Like this. And that purple thing. If you ran out of change, you wouldn't even have any light, let alone heat. For the needy, London's winters can be very harsh. That's true, but if you think about it, even the wealthy would find themselves freezing if they ran out of small change. London's winters can be very harsh for the forgetful too, then. Frankly, I'm starting to wonder if Susato-san and I are going to make it to spring. That's true. We don't even have a meter at Baker Street, let alone a gas stove. Look how dark the stains on the floor. The stain on the floor is underneath the meter there. Yes, from all the water dripping out after the ice coins melted, as you established in court this morning. It's a very large and ominous stain, isn't it? Mr. Shakespeare must have used an awful lot of ice coins, I suppose. It was an ingenious idea, I'll give him that. Ah, the ill-fated teacups from which the two men drank on the ill-fated night. During their heated literary debate, yes. Who's stronger, Romeo or Juliet? It sounds like it was quite a discussion. Now I think of it, I'm sure that the two lovers in the play ended their lives with poison. Kind of. That's fiction, Miss Susato. Let's hope it stays that way. So it turns out that Mr. Shakespeare wasn't eating the soap at all. That's right, the mystery of why he had it on a plate and was holding a fork in his hand is solved. Yes, to prize his latest ice coin. To prize his latest ice coin out of its mold. And in the process, he accidentally broke the bar of soap in two. It certainly was hard to imagine, let alone deduce. The sun never shines in this room thanks to that depressing bricked-up window. Yet with enough determination, you can always remove the bricks to set some soap outside, can't you? It sounds like a very wise life lesson, Miss Susato. Only if you plan to follow a life of crime, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, I guess gotta go to the people now. For new clues, Inspector. Lord Van Zyke's orders, yeah. Don't come back till you've got something for me, he says. Tsk. Oh dear, poor you. Yeah, poor me, because we've already searched every bleeding nook and cranny of this place. I don't know what he expects, to be honest. Thank goodness for warm chips is all I can say. Well, at least he's honest. That's it. Okay, some more of this nonsense then. Mr. Sholmes, what are you up to over there? Question indeed. Was it not your good self who asked me to attend the scene? Oi, what are you doing here, Sholmes? What are you up to over there? What are you doing here? Dear me, once a great detective, once is always under scrutiny. Is always under scrutiny, it seems. Is now the time, Mr. Sholmes? Are you about to show us your forensic talents in action as you promised? With the greatest of pleasure, my dear madame. That's all this. All this is precisely what you requested, Mr. Naruhodo. Hairlock Sholmes' sensational skin print seeker gun. Moments ago, I took a sample for the teacup that was used by the victim. A sample from Mr. Shamspeare's cup? Each individual leaves microscopic secretions on everything he or she touches. A sample of those secretions is all I need to produce this, a refined indicator solution. By liberally spraying the room with this chemical, everything the victim touched is instantly revealed with the aid of these goggles. Here, try them on. There, now spray the chemical indicator about and all will be revealed. Spray how? How do I do that exactly? A little press of space on the area you're interested in is all that's requested, like this. Oh, what is that stuff? It's like fog. A suspension of the chemical indicator in the pressurized gas. In a pressurized gas is the most efficient way to cover a large area. That was another invention I discovered, incidentally, whilst I was developing this idea. As you do. Go ahead, try it, my dear fellow. We may learn something interesting about the victim's movements on the night in question. Well, there's nothing to lose, I suppose. Let's explore. Okay. there are dozens of handprints here. So there are, a great many indeed. So much so that it's hard to make out any one individual print, in fact. Ugh, it seems a chill down my spine. Perhaps he was leaning against the wall whilst he admired this picture? Unlikely, I would say. It's a rather dull scene, after all. And without wishing to state the obvious, you wouldn't generally admire a picture from such close quarters, I feel. Oh, very true, Miss Susato. It's a bit of a mystery, then. Hey, how do we get out of this? Spray enough stuff. Look at all the prints here. Ah yes, interesting. A multitude of the victim's handprints. Why are there so many of them on the floor in this one spot? Oh, perhaps he had a bad fall just here. There's nothing obvious that he would have tripped over, though, is there? I wonder. Personally, I often stumble when there's something obvious to trip over. I think that's something only a great detective would do, Mr. Sholmes. Well, this is quite a puzzle. Handprints all over the floor. Yes, there's no obvious explanation. Oh, we sprayed Mr. Sholmes' amazing skin print indicator all over the room, didn't we? We did, but there are two places in particular that are of interest, I would say. The handprints on the floor there. And on the wall by the picture, you mean? Yes, and I think the floor warrants closer investigation. I won't be a moment. Ah. What is it, Miss Susato? The obvious thing? Look here, Mr. Naruhodo. One of the floorboards has popped out. We totally did not need to use the handprint stuff for this. What that you mean? A secret hiding place? Excellent work, Miss Susato. So what do we have in here? Boy, what are you lot doing? Inspector Gregson, stand aside right this minute. It's my job to investigate there. No need, Inspector. You continue to dig into your portion of chips. Mostly dig around under the floor here. And your respawning fillet of fish. Your fancy talk's putting me off my food anyway, Sholmes. A new bit of evidence is exactly what I need. Wow, a secret hiding place under the floor. What a find. It's not a hiding place you could make use of in Japan. I don't think I could lift a straw to Tommy Matt. No, I know, but I never expected one of these wooden floorboards to move either. It's got me wondering about the wall over there, too. Aren't you curious? Oh. I'll investigate it once. Take off the picture. There's nothing behind the picture, sadly. Only the wall. Disappointing. But then, how do you explain the handprints? I really can't think why anyone would have been touching the wall over there and over in one place like that. Click. There you are, a print for you. Photograph of the handprints of the wall have been entered into the court record. Oh, thank you very much. His invention can make prints too. Now then, I wonder if Inspector Gregson has found anything over the floor there. I'm desperate to know. So am I. I would love to know if there's anything hidden underneath the floorboard there. Allow me to ask Gregson now. After all, we're well acquainted. Inspector Gregson, really, it's been too long. What is it, Sholmes? I thought perhaps you might show me what you found there, seeing as we're such good friends. We're not friends. No, I suppose not. A dismal failure. Yes, I heard. I killed a nobodies underneath that floorboard. Alright then, fair is fair. What? You did discover the hiding place after all. I suppose I should at least fill you in. Really, Inspector? Thank you. Do it quickly, my dear fellow. If there's one thing I know about this man, it's that he blows with the wind, as fickle as the weather. I'll stop making me out to be some kind of nut. There were 3 items under the floor there. A newspaper clipping, a photographic print, and a tin box. Now, what do you want to know? All of them? Looks like this was cut out of the paper about 3 months ago. It's about a convict who got sick and died while he was serving time up in Manchester. How terrible. It made the headlines down here in London as well. The bloke had been sentenced to death, you see, but nature got him first. Oh my goodness, he committed a capital offense. Man by the name of Selden. Nasty piece of work, into burglaries and murder. They say the hoard he knocked off is worth about £1,000. A hoard of treasure, you mean? Jewelry and the like, but he'd hidden it somewhere, and no one knows where, and now he's dead. The papers loved it, of course. £1,000 lost en route to hell, or some such at the headline. Does it not strike you, though? Why such an article would be so carefully ensconced under the floor? Or ensconced. I suppose, now that you mention it, it does seem a bit odd. Perhaps I'll go over the paperwork we've got on Selden back at the yard and see if you can turn anything up. So this is the photographic print I found. It looks reasonably recent to me. Yes, it would appear to have been taken on the street in front of the house here. The gentleman on the left is Mr. Garadeb, the landlord, of course. But who's the young man on the right? Mr. Garadeb's son, perhaps? Nope. It's the other tenant. Perhaps you can take that print if you like. Really? Are you sure? I'm pretty sure that's going to be a tenant who died. We can presume, therefore, that the Yard already knows. The identity of the young fellow, that is. Ah, is that true? Ah, well, it's too bad if we do. Unfortunately for you lot, leaking information isn't one of my pastimes. My dear Inspector, if I may be so bold as to point something out. Pastimes are for one's leisure, but this is for work. All the more reason I'm not telling you. A dismal failure. Yes, I heard. Wonder why a photograph like this was hidden under the floor. I mean, Mr. Shamspeare himself isn't in it. Photographic prints are still rare treasures in the East End. I imagine Mr. Garadeb was rather delighted to have been immortalized. He probably made a proud president of it. Now this tin box looks interesting, doesn't it? Might I suggest, Inspector, that you open it? If you're going to find something inside that reveals the truth behind the case. I wouldn't be in the least surprised. Yeah, funnily enough, I've already had a look. It's completely empty. What? Shemspeare? Give us a clue, man. You didn't even have a chance to utter a word, Mr. Naruhodo. But anyway, at least we found out what's inside the box. Yes, thin air. It's empty, rather like how I feel inside. Is there nothing more to this box, then? I wonder. So they imply you filled it with gas? Oh, here's Wagahai. Oh, look, it's a lovely little kitty cat. What was its name? It's Mr. Natsume's, isn't it? I don't think we've ever asked him, actually. Why don't we call it, Wagahai? You know, like Mr. Natsume refers to himself in Japanese. I wonder how he got in here. Clever cat. Oh, wonderful. Well then, Wagahai, here's something delicious I bought for you and the cat's meat. From the cat's meat man. Hehe. He couldn't be happier now, look. I just hope we can bring some happiness to his owner, too. Meow. That was a cheeky little meow, Wagahai. Oh, but he's so adorable. I could sit and watch him forever. I think he may not appreciate that after a while, and we may have an investigation to get back to. What? Like, it's gotta unleash a clue somewhere, right? Like, Wagahai got in somehow? Okay. Mr. Garrett appears to be out. Oh well, I suppose we'll just have to come back again later. Okay. Oh, Mr. Natsume is back. So he is. Mr. Natsume, hello. I am a cat. Sorry? I don't know who Mr. Natsume is. Or Herlock Sholmes. I don't know about courts or trials or Old Baileys. I am a cat. That is what I am. Just a cat. Mr. Naruhodo is trying to escape from reality. Trying to, he already has. Completely. So, what's your name then? As yet I have no name. Mr. Naruhodo, he hasn't fully thought out his new identity yet. Maybe it's not too late to bring him back to reality. Do you think you could open your eyes for us, Mr. Natsume? I am not a cat. It worked. He's back in the real world. What's going to become of me? No. Don't answer that. It's obvious. My accursed soul is never going to escape this accursed fate. Mr. Natsume, no, this morning's proceedings in court prove that there's hope. Yes, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire was brilliant, but, the Reaper is omnipresent in court, in my lodgings. Here, there, everywhere. What's he looking straight into me for? I think perhaps there are some things we should discuss. Oh, yes. Yes, we must. My whole life I have never have I ever been so moved as I was today? No. Of course, if I cast my mind back, there were perhaps one or two other occasions that moved me more. But if I just block those out, then today being in that courtroom was the most moving experience of my life. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. You're too kind. Scotland Yard found the remaining tea, just as we deduced, and are analyzing it as we speak. There's nothing wrong with that tea. They won't find a drop of poison in it. That's a solemn sworn Soseki certainty. Oh, they'll find poison. Tell me, did you both drink the tea at the same time that night? Oh yes, most definitely. Remember, drink tea while it's hot. We both poured it down our throats like it was hot bath for our bellies. And at the time, you were both completely fine. As shown by the fact that he and Mr. Shamspeare were engaged in the Romeo and Juliet match. I suppose the focus of tomorrow's proceedings will be how the poison was taken by the victim then. That rotten Shamspeare. What have I ever done to him? You don't recall him taking issue with your overdoing anything you've done recently? I've been holed up in my room, immersed in books. I don't recall anything. Anything at all. Right. What I don't understand is why he didn't let me know sooner. Let you know what, Mr. Natsume? About the soap, of course. What else? Oh dear. Are you struggling with such a meager stipend? Of course I am, if I had money. I wouldn't have chosen to live an accursed existence in such an accursed lodgings. Oh yes, you said it's because the place is cursed that it's so cheap, didn't you? Exactly, especially the room that I rent. The spirit of that capital offender who lived there still haunts the place, and it's trying to kill me. The capital offender? Might I ask, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, that next time you visit me, you bring scores of super soft soaps. What's this? It's a newspaper cutting that we found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. Ah, so he knew, did he? Sorry? About this man, Selden. Convicted killer, and the evil spirit behind the curse that afflicts my lodgings. What? He's already taken one young man's life, and now he's trying to take the life of another, a miserable, mustached, much maligned Japanese man. Mr. Natsume, if you know something, please, you must tell us. Tell us everything you can about this evil spirit. Truth is, I didn't know the details myself until very recently. That Selden man was arrested about a year ago now. And at the time, he was hiding out in lodgings at Mr. Garadeb's house. What? He lived where you do now? That's right, yes, exactly where I live now. In my very room. Oh my, your room was previously occupied by a criminal found guilty of a capital offense? But before his sentence could be carried out, he died in prison. That was 3 months ago now. And that's when it started. The curse. What really is this curse you keep mentioning, Mr. Natsume? It's already caused one death, a few months after the criminal passed away in prison. A man died in the room, the man who rented it after Selden, in fact. The poor lodger. He was found dead in mysterious circumstances. The room was locked from the inside. Locked from the inside, exactly like the case we're dealing with now. I have to pause recording again here. God. So that's the convict's curse, is it? Yes, well, that was the start of it. Do you have any idea how the lodger before you passed away, Mr. Natsume? The official cause of death was asphyxia. When they discovered the body, the room was full of gas. Gas? I only found that out after I signed the lease. When Mr. Garadeb came to tell me later, I couldn't stop myself trembling. In fact, if I'd known beforehand, I'd probably have been too scared to take the room. Landlord's lease, luckily legal. Lucky for Mr. Garadeb, maybe, but not too lucky for poor Natsume. And now you believe this curse is affecting you. It is. At first, I just felt as though I was being watched all the time. And then you talked about having nightmares, didn't you? The dead are trying to talk to me with them. They come for me and try to suffocate me. Just when I'm struggling to breathe, I wake up. And the room is as cold as ice. Well, why is your room so cold? Because I have to stop recording. I have to pause recording again. We have to deal with the throat tickle. It's really insane here. Okay, hopefully I coughed it out. So I presume it's happening here is that at some point in the night, Natsume's gas starts leaking. So it doesn't get to the furnace. So his room doesn't get any heat, and it leaks into the room, and that decreases the oxygen concentration in the room, and Natsume feels like he's suffocating. So Natsume is almost dying over and over again, and might be getting some brain damage. London winters are too cold to bear without any heating on overnight. But for some reason, even though I light the stove before I climb into bed at night, the pilot light always goes out, and the room fills with gas. But that's terrible. That's exactly the same situation as what led to the previous occupant's death. And then there's what happened to Mr. Shakespeare last night, when he was mysteriously poisoned. There's clearly more to that incident that can be explained by a curse, though. Whatever can be the cause of all these strange happenings in Mr. Garrett's rooms. Okay. Oh, so you're here now, Mr. Garredeb. Right bally business is it for me, you know. Getting out and about. Were you at the Old Bailey by any chance? Naturally. Fate of my lodgings hangs in the balance, and all that. Not a trial to miss. The fate of what's already been dubbed your haunted lodgings, yes. Of course, the place has caused quite a stir around the capital on more than one occasion already. As the old haunted lodgings or some such. Well, at least he knows. Makes you wonder what the blazes is going on, don't you know? Yes, I'm sure it does. In fact, thinking back to Mr. Natsume's other trial just 2 days ago, you were at the Old Bailey when as well, weren't you, testifying with your wife about what happened? Stopped off at the prison on the way home, in fact. Beastly business. I see. So, what brings you to my haunted abode today, eh? Mr. Garredeb, could you ask you to look at this photograph? Is that your son who is with you there? No, not at all. He was a lodger here once. Duncan Ross was his name. Duncan Ross. A street photographer happened to be passing, so I asked him to take a shot, just for kicks, really. Is he by any chance the lodger before Mr. Natsume? Yes, that's right. Ah, the young gentleman who died in the room in mysterious circumstances. Just what Mr. Mustache was waiting for, one might say. Yes, young Duncan lived in the room at the top of the first flight of stairs before that Japanese chap. Would you mind telling us a little more about him? Okay. Mr. Garadeb, could I show you this? I guess that doesn't matter, okay. Yes, Duncan Ross, young chap, was attending art school. Had to work to pay for it, mind. Moved into the middle floor room about a year ago. After that, criminal Selden was arrested. Young students are always on the hunt for rooms with a history behind them. A history of cheap rent, maybe, yes? Well, yes, well, anyway. It was one morning about a month ago now. Hadn't quite worked out the old trick of watching the gas lamps to see what my lodgers are up to at the time. So sadly, I was rather tardy to discover that what had happened. Smell of gas that alerted me, it was. Ah, yes. Synonymous with the smell of death. Called the police straight away, of course, and the officer kicked the door off its hinges. But once we got inside, he was all bally collapsed. Because of the gas? Yes, room was full of it. No air at all. Stove must have gone out while the poor chap was sleeping in his bed. So Mr. Roth suffocated to death. Of course, the police gave me a sound ticking off because the gas pipes were so old and all that. Can't tell you how much it sent me back to have the lot replaced all over the house. But even after you had all that work done, Mr. Natsume says the same thing. That the stove goes out at night while she's asleep in bed. Well, that's the Bali curse. The convict's curse. I've done my duty as a landlord now. Someone's feeling defensive. Someone did replace his pipes. I claimed he did. Some fishy fellow from the Far East and a failed actor chap of questionable character, eh? There's no need for that, Mr. Garadeb. That's right. Mr. Natsume is in no way fishy. He is undeniably peculiar, however. Is it right that he took the vacancy immediately after the previous tenant passed away? Yes, that's right. I asked the estate agent to find someone and he popped up the very same day. You ever come across a chap so keen for a place with a background, as it were? I don't think it was the room's background he was keen on, as much as the cheap rent, actually. So, how long has Mr. Shamspear been lodging under your roof? That failed actor chap? Let me see. Oh, of course. Yes, it's been 3 months now. Quite sure of it. Only 3 months. He's quite new here too, then. And to what do you owe your certainty in that regard, Mr. Garadeb, if I might ask? Well, it was that Selden scoundrel, as it happens. Selden? The convict, you mean? Do Selden and Shamspear have some kind of connection, then? The convict chap, Selden, passed away in the clink 3 months ago now, you see. Some malady or other. Malady. Okay. Yes, you see the report from the newspaper at the time. Well, it was only 3 days later that the tragedian showed his face, the actor fellow. So he is Selden himself, then. Really? Yes, I remember it quite distinctly. 'Tis small, this world we inhabit. Prithee, landlord, hear my request. I, the humble Shamspear, do desire to take thy room on the middle floor, offer it erewhile for rent. Terribly sorry and whatnot, but that won't be possible. Already have a lodger on the middle floor. Ground floor room's vacant, though. Nothing can be made out of nothing. Let me repeat mine will unto thee. Those curls must be muffling your ears. The room on the middle floor is taken. It's ground floor or nothing. Very well, we have an accord. Glad to hear it. Welcome to Briar Road. Lo, Shemspeare dance to celebrate. What I hear in court today sounds like the chap was Stephen Gass. And he was 3 months in arrears with the rent too. Yes, the fellow was a bally player, all right. Thank you for your candor, Mr. Garadeb. We are most grateful. By the way of appreciation, allow me to say 1 or 2 words. Give me thy robe. Put on my crown. I have immortal longings in me. What's happened to you? Shakespeare, my dear fellow, one of his most famous lines. I wish I'd divulged my own learning on the subject, for I have a turn for literature too, you know. More like your brain is just a sponge. Perhaps you could turn your attention to more apt lines then? Why I accidentally clicked the wrong thing. Okay. Some fishy fellow from the Far East, a failed actor chap, a questionable character, eh? Yes, the house does seem to have become something of a magnet for rum fellows of late. Thanks to that bally curse. The convict's hearse, you mean? Ah, heard the stories, have you? Rotten scoundrel was arrested here, then the next chap in the room goes and keels over. Then there was that woman who dropped dead just outside on the street, not to mention the actor yesterday. Am I next? Well, can't help but get the collie wobbles, can you? When you say the woman who dropped dead outside on the street, do you mean Miss Green? Because Miss Green, who was stabbed by the knife, and Mr. Shakespeare, who were poisoned last night, are both very much alive still. Well, yes, well, so is that blasted convict's curse, it seems. Personally, I should be quite content with such lodgings. A bath, a toilet, a fireplace, a fascinating history. Why? It sounds like the lap of luxury. I'm not so sure about that. Well, there's no bath or toilet included, and no fireplace either. But you do look out for your tenants, don't you? By watching the rise and fall of the flames in your gas lamps up here? Yes, never hurts to keep an eye on things, in case there are any mishaps or such like. I think you've had your mishap already, sir. That's not helpful, Mr. Sholmes. Heaven forgive me, the words just came out of my lips. Oh, that reminds me, actually. Yes? About young Duncan. The night before the poor chap perished. He'd been writing a letter of affection to a young lady. A love letter, you mean? Yes, where did I put it now? Ah, here it is, left on my desk. If you'll excuse me, let me see it now. What does it say? Okay. To my most beautiful and charming sweetheart. Do you think that we should be reading such a personal piece of correspondence? My dear Miss Susato, that is precisely why I prefaced my reading with, if you'll excuse me. I will not excuse you, Mr. Sholmes, no. Sadly, he didn't address it, though. So I have no means of delivering the thing. Rather sad, really. I see. That's going to play on my mind. But really, the identity of Mr. Ross's sweetheart is no bearing on the case. I think we should leave well alone. Yes, I suppose you're right. Indeed, the intended recipient's address is missing. However, there is a name attributed to the man's... excuse me. The man's most beautiful and charming sweetheart. Mr. Scholes, please, I already had to chastise you about this once. My undying love to you, my colorful darling, Olive Green. Ah. Olive Green. The woman who was plunged into a coma after a knife plunged into her back outside the house 5 days ago. So even if you're that rotund, I just can't resist. There is always a boy who's into that. It may not be mainstream, but you could find a boy somewhere who's into it. The victim of the last case Soseki-san was in court for, who regained consciousness only yesterday. Is it just chance that her name has come up now? Could it possibly be a mere coincidence? Mr. Naruhodo, whatever can this mean? Reading personal correspondence can have its merits, you see, Miss Susato. Be all checked off, but... Okay, let's go to... Mr. Naruhodo, I've just finished speaking with the doctor. It seems Miss Green is well enough to be discharged at last. This is good news, but hopefully just before she leaves... Ah! What is it? Miss Green! That she clearly hit something behind her back. I'll be with you in a jiffy. Oh, hello everyone, what are you doing here? The doctor said I could be discharged, so I'm just setting my things together. Or getting my things together. Miss Green, what were you just doing? Oh, I'm nothing, really. I was just about to take some medicine the doctor prescribed for me, that's all. Well, we were hoping to have another quick chat with you, if that's alright. I don't really have anything else to tell you. Alright, she's definitely behaving strangely. Let's see if we can't coax something out of her. Miss Green, we were hoping to ask you about someone. Mr. Duncan Ross. You knew him, didn't you? So sorry, the bottle of medicine fell down while she did. Miss Green, are you alright? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to startle you like that. No, it's alright. I just wasn't expecting it. But how do you know about Duncan? Mr. Ross had been writing a letter when he passed away. Landlord found it in his room. It was a very personal letter to you. It was at the art school. That's where I met Duncan, a year ago now. He was working to fund his studies. He dreamt of becoming a professional artist one day. And the two of you became romantically involved? Yes, that's right. We were very much in love. We were engaged to be married, actually. That's why he decided to move into a cheaper room to save money for the wedding. But that's what led him to Mr. Garradeb's. Yes, he told me he'd found the worst but cheapest room in the entire East End. And then 1 month ago, that's when it happened. We're so terribly sorry, Miss Green. Well, it's all in the past now, I suppose. Poor Miss Green, she looks desperately sad. I was starting to think that's just her look. But now I see that she has every reason to feel the universe is against her. Green, about this. Could you just hold that there for a moment? Don't move. Sorry? No, the aesthetics are all wrong. Is it wrong that I feel so thoroughly rejected? It's wonderful news that you're going to be discharged, Miss Green. Oh yes, I mean, thank you. Once people are better, the hospital staff don't want them lingering and wasting space. Not people like me, anyway. So I don't think I should keep anyone waiting. I probably shouldn't stand around and chat. She certainly doesn't seem to be in the mood to talk, that's for sure. I do hope you won't think I'm being rude, but... Wouldn't you mind leaving me in peace now? I have to leave the hospital soon. Oh, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to hold you up. Of course, we'll be on our way. Mr. Naruhodo. Surely we're not about to leave. That's quite out of the question. Mr. Schultz, I didn't realize you were here. But of course I was, my dear fellow. Watching intently from the shadows as always. Well, make your presence known next time. Mr. Sholmes, what's this about? Something which occurred to me with some regularity, Miss Susato, is this. That occurs, that is. Why do detectives insist so much on ex post facto modus operandi? Why solve a case after it's happened, instead of preventing a case before it happens? That is what sets a great detective apart. What do you mean? There is a case waiting to happen under our very noses, Mr. Naruhodo. So let us avert disaster. Let us prevent this case from ever happening, with nothing but careful observation. Alright. All the clues you need are set before you. You need only look, and you cannot fail to see. You can do it, Mr. Naruhodo. I know you can. Definitely feels as though this car might be relevant. I mean, when we first arrived, Miss Green was standing with it in her hand. It could only be described as a very tense atmosphere. Yes, it may very well be related to whatever incident Mr. Schultz believes was about to happen here. Perhaps we should ask Miss Green about it. That mouse seems to be dead. Look, didn't notice it before, did you? I think perhaps it drank the medicine that spilled out of the bottle. But that's the bottle that Miss Green was about to drink from when we arrived. You don't think... Ah, I see. You've come to appreciate the true nature of this scene. That of a tragedy about to take place. More poison! And suicide. Yeah, enough of that. Yes, I think it's falling into place. At least this is a fast poison. Miss Green, the contents of the bottle you had before has spilt out on the floor, and the poor mouse that drank it has sadly died. I think it's clear that the bottle must have contained a powerful poison. Don't worry, I will attend to the mouse presently. Miss Green, were you intending to go the same way as that rodent? To take your own life. Once we left, you would have put it on your lips again, wouldn't you? And taken the poison. No. Miss Green, please. Please talk to us. Mr. Duncan Ross. Who would have ever thought that he was engaged to be married to Miss Green? To lose one's beloved fiancé must be painful enough. But then Miss Green suffered that awful injury. And outside her fiancé's former lodgings, too. Fate can be very cruel sometimes. "10 seconds later, and we would have arrived at a very different scene here. In all probability, we would not have enjoyed this most delightful conversation. Of course, perhaps it hasn't been quite so delightful from your perspective, Miss Green. Actually, in a way, now that everything's out in the open, I feel like a weight has been lifted. Tell me, how did you acquire that medicine?" "Well, with this being a hospital and all, when the doctor comes to examine me in the mornings, he always leaves the medicine cabinet open for a while, so I snuck this out when he wasn't looking. It conspicuously lacks a label. I wonder what it contains. I'm afraid I don't really know. But I thought, if I drank it, it might just stop the pain somehow." "Oh, please, Miss Green. Don't talk of such things. Well, it seems clear now that it contains poison. Or something you're supposed to administer in very low doses. Yes, that poor little mouse is proof of that. Oh, it's all my fault. What have I done? I shall remove this to my office, Miss Green. I take it you have no objection." "No, none." Neither the sender's name or address appear to be written on the envelope of the card. It arrived by post at my home the day before the incident that put me in the hospital here. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad. The Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. Wait a minute. 17th of this month? That's the day you were stabbed on Briar Road. And 5 p.m. is precisely the time when the incident occurred. Slug and Salad, yes? A pub on the northern corner of Briar Road. Briar Road, being the street that Mr. Garredeb's house is on. Does this mean that... Yes, I'm sure you've guessed. That day when I was struck in the back by the knife, I was actually on my way to the Slug and Salad. goodness. So that's what you were doing on Briar Road that day. I'm sorry I didn't say anything before. I think I really will have to ask you to excuse me now. I've told you everything. Yes, I'm very sorry to have had to drag up such painful memories for you. No, it's fine. Miss Green, please promise us you won't try to do anything like that again. Yes, don't worry. Your detective friend has the bottle now anyway. But there's plenty more bottles though. And besides, maybe not that specifically, but bottles full of dangerous things. I've been stabbed in the back and had a close shave with a bottle of poison and I'm still here. I think I'm destined to see things through to the end. It might sound a little conceited, but well, that's how all this has made me feel. Leaving Miss Green and St. Bartholomew's behind, we made our way back to Baker Street with Mr. Sholmes. Well, it would appear we've reached the end of the investigative trail for today. Yes, it's late. And Mr. Naruhodo? Did you discover anything that may be of use to you in court tomorrow, do you think? Details about Mr. Shamspeare, Mr. Yaredev's lodgings, the convict Selden. There are many facets to this case, and we're yet to see to the heart of it, if you ask me. That's my feeling, anyway. I can't help wondering about the results of the analysis. Into Mr. Natsume's tea, you mean? Yes, will they have found strychnine in it or not? Well, I fear that either way, it will be hard to escape the grip of our friend Mr. Reaper. Oh dear. Yes, Barak von Zykes. But I wish you every success, of course. And though I was late to rise this morning, tomorrow will be a new dawn. I intend to spring from my bed at a crisp hour and attend the trial. Mr. Sholmes, you're going to come? Indeed, whatever happens, I shall be there. Assuming my eyelids cooperate in the morning. Well, I think we've done all we can. All that's left is to remain focused and keep fighting for Mr. Natsume's cause until the very end. London, the world's most prosperous city, home to some 6 million people. But away from the razzle-dazzle down back alleys and behind bricked-up windows, the lonely lurk. Soseki-san had battled long and hard with loneliness during his many months here. And so I felt honor-bound to battle equally hard for my compatriot, to lift the curse that gripped him. And as Mr. Sholmes said, tomorrow would be a new dawn for all of us. New rising sun for all of us, you mean. And that should be it for now. Yeah. Try to do the trial in the next one. I guess I'll try to make another. I'll try to make it my next. My previous guess of who did it was character that has not been introduced yet. I'll make my next guess in the beginning of the next one, I think.